Today, I'm going to share 3 true lighthouse horror stories that will make you question ever visiting one again. The first story comes from my cousin Nate, who's been in the Coast Guard for over a decade. He's not the type to make things up, just a practical guy who likes boats and order. Back in 2017, he was assigned to Martinez Rock Lighthouse off the coast of Maine on a 2-week maintenance rotation. This place is completely isolated, accessible only by boat or helicopter, with no power grid, plumbing, or reliable cell service. Nate and his partner Russell were sent to handle routine maintenance. The first few days were uneventful, checking beacon mechanics, testing batteries, and scraping salt corrosion. But on the 4th night, Nate woke around 2 a.m. feeling strange. The air was heavy, like before a thunderstorm, and he noticed the lighthouse beacon wasn't rotating. They discovered a large piece of wet, slimy cloth jammed in the mechanism. This made no sense. The door had been locked and windows sealed. They removed it, thinking it was just bizarre. The next night, the exact same thing happened. Another piece of fabric in the mechanism, but this time it was different. A red, frayed scarf soaked with seawater and covered in tiny crustaceans. Things escalated from there. They barricaded the stairwell, but on the 7th night, Nate heard Russell whispering to an empty corner. Later that night, Russell claimed he saw someone standing on the rocks below. Russell's behavior became increasingly erratic, not sleeping, staring out windows, muttering about voices in the walls. On the 9th night, they both heard deliberate footsteps coming down from the beacon room, though neither had gone up there. They slept with knives under their pillows. 2 nights later, they found the beacon room door wide open, the industrial bulb carefully unscrewed and placed in the middle of the room. Russell kept pointing at the wall, insisting he saw a hand come through the bricks. The next morning, Nate called for early evacuation. The strangest part? The rescue crew said they'd received a distress call at 2:12 a.m., a garbled message about someone being there with them, but Nate never made that call. Russell quit the Coast Guard months later, and Nate refuses to return to Martinez Rock. The second story happened during COVID lockdowns. A guy met a girl named Sophia through Instagram, and they decided to hang out. She suggested driving to Montauk Lighthouse at night, despite it being closed after sunset. They parked and walked to the cliff walk behind the lighthouse, navigating with flashlights. Suddenly, they noticed someone behind them on the rocks, a hooded figure who asked if they wanted to buy drugs. As they continued walking, this stranger followed at the same pace. When they hurried back to their car, 2 more men appeared. They barely made it inside and locked the doors before the men tried opening them, kicking and hitting the car as they drove away. Our final story comes from Ian, a marine salvage expert with decades of experience. In 2013, he was hired to inspect an abandoned lighthouse on a remote rock island in Washington state. The lighthouse hadn't been operational for years, just a 50-foot tower on a small chunk of land with nothing else around. Ian packed supplies for 4 days, planning to thoroughly assess the structure. The first night was unusually quiet. No birds, insects, or even waves. On the second day, thick fog rolled in, and Ian discovered a maintenance closet that had mysteriously opened after being stuck shut the day before. Inside was a moss-covered wooden box that looked like it had been underwater. That night, he heard footsteps going up the metal stairs, but found nothing when he investigated. The next day, the box had moved outside the closet, and there were bare, wet footprints in the mud leading from the lighthouse to the cliff edge, just stopping at the drop into the sea. The third night, he heard the beacon room door slam violently, followed by 3 slow knocks from inside the wall itself. By morning, the box was gone and the closet door fully open. Ian called for immediate evacuation, but had to wait 7 hours in thickening fog before a boat could reach him. He never returned to that lighthouse and quit field work entirely within a year. When asked what really happened there, he only said, "Some places are meant to be left alone. They just need time and silence." Lighthouses have always existed at the boundary between land and sea, safety and danger. They're built on isolation, designed to guide ships away from peril. But what happens when the danger isn't out there in the water, but inside the lighthouse itself? What ancient things might be drawn to these solitary sentinels, these lonely outposts where one person stands against the darkness. Perhaps the next time you see a lighthouse in the distance, you might wonder, is it just watching the sea, or is something inside watching you?